And finally, you can run tasks in either series or parallel. Okay, so let's hop over here to Data Tools. And this is the 2012 interface here. It starts out with Visual Studio 2010. If you remember before, in 2008 R2 and before, you were in the Visual Studio 2008 shell. Here we're in the Visual Studio 2010. Same concept as before. We're just going to create a new integration services project just like you would in your 2008 environment here. And we'll call this webinar. We'll say OK. And right off the bat, if you're used to the 2008 interface, you'll notice a couple of different things. You'll notice that down here we've got some getting started in SSIS. So there's actually some links that they built in, just some nice little helpful kind of getting started little demo environment or demo pieces here that you can go out and take a look at. They link to some MSDN articles. There's some downloads out there and everything for you. But the main thing that you're going to notice is before you didn't have this little object called project.params. We also had shared connection managers before. We didn't have just regular connection managers. We did have SSIS packages, and then there was also one, I believe the data source view, I believe, was actually an option in the 2008 R2 version here as well. So a little bit different concept around the way that 2012 works versus 2008. In 2008, everything was done at the package level. In 2012, everything is based on the project. So in 2008, you would create a connection manager down here. I'll just create one here real quick for us. Localhost /SQL 2012. So I've got this in a separate instance, and we'll connect to our AdventureWorks database. So this would be the way that you would create a connection in the 2008 environment. You'll notice that it's just like it was before. Everything shows up with the default naming convention here, and it's available inside my package. When I create a new SSIS package here, you'll notice that that connection manager is not available. Again, just like it was in the worked in the 2008 version. With 2012 and this whole project deployment model, what we end up with is the ability to really share everything among all your packages. So that's what these connection managers here are going to do, as well as our project parameters. So parameters are a little bit different than variables, and I'll talk about that here in just one second. But anything that you see over here inside the Solution Explorer is going to be shared throughout the entire project. So if I create a connection manager up here by doing New Connection Manager, and I we'll create one to my AdventureWorks data warehouse, and I'll go with the DW this time. If I create that here, you'll notice that I get a second connection manager inside of this package, and then it has this little label on here saying project. And essentially what that means is that this is a project level connection manager. So this connection manager here now is available inside of every single one of my packages. So you'll notice if I come back over here to package 1, that same connection is also inside of there. So before we always had to go through and we had to create, if I wanted to, like for instance, load my data warehouse, every single package that I had to create, I had to come in here and say, I want to add this data warehouse connection. With the inclusion of these connection managers at the project level, we only have to create it once and it's done from that point. Consequently, that also means you don't have to worry about configurations quite as much. So I don't have to go through all my packages and put package configurations on that connection. Once I set the value for this server name and database name here at the project level, that cascades down to every single one of my packages. So again, if you are familiar with that 2008 interface, I just mentioned the package, the configurations. You'll notice that something is missing here on this little list of options, and that is your package configurations. So in the 2012 environment, the package configurations have been removed, and we now use the combination of a parameter and project level connection managers to mimic that functionality. So for instance, if I wanted to change the name of my server name here, I would have to come over here, right-click, and say Parameterize, and then tell it that I wanted to override the server name. So rather than having having my server name hard-coded in here, I'm going to create this new parameter called server name. And instead of localhost, I'm going to put my actual computer name in here. So fl-ws-conbs01. Okay. Notice I'm going to put this at the project level. And then once we do that, we have this little f of x icon on here. Essentially, all you're doing whenever you hit that parameterize button is you're having SSIS create an expression in the background. So much like you would do in 2008 and before, you can put expressions on things. We now have just an expression on here. Not sure why I'm getting that there. But we now just have an expression on here that's going to evaluate to the server name value. So we might end up doing another session another time to kind of go into the complete difference between how to do configurations in 2012 versus 2008 R2. That's a pretty it's a pretty large topic, but just know that the project or the package level configurations are no longer there. You do need to use a combination of connection managers, be that project or package, and then the use of your parameters. So something else that I can come over here and do, if you do want to upgrade to the 2012 version, but you want to be able to continue to use the original, the 2008 R2 and before version, you notice that I do, if I click on the project, I have this option here to convert to package deployment model. So if I click on that little button there, you'll notice that everything, I get a little warning from here. Oops, let me get rid of this here. And let's see if I can get this converted over. Oop. Remove parameters. Oh, let me remove that parameter out of there. So I can actually, if I get rid of all the 2012 pieces in here, there we go, I can actually convert this back over to the original 2008 version. So you notice that my connection switches back over here to data sources, and if I open up one of these SSIS packages, you'll notice that I get that package configurations option back. So you do have the option to switch back and forth between the two. If you are going from a previous version, I notice there are some questions in here in the box about upgrading to 2012. If you open up one of your 2008 R2 packages or projects inside of here, and you right-click on here, you can convert those over to the project deployment model.